Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our attempt at a spoiler-free review of Ad Astra.
Right.
We went and saw this last night, and we're going to do a review tonight, and then we'll probably talk about it again on Monday during the Monday show, our big show, because this one's sitting with us.
Yes.
It's been one of those movies that when we left, we both talked all the way home about everything that we saw within the movie and what certain things meant and the visuals and the story elements and what the story really was about and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But much like 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's a sit down and think about movie.
Right. And we both kind of decided on the way home that we needed to maybe go watch some other reviews and make sure we weren't missing it or, you know, on a completely separate page. And apparently we were not. Everybody was pretty much where we were.
Kind of same. We say spoiler free because there is some stuff. There is a story arc within this movie that actually does, if you know what's going on, does actually spoil the movie overall. It's not a gigantic, end game with the snap with some guy who's Starkey.
I think that what's shown in the previews does not spoil the movie.
Right.
It's in space. Tommy Lee Jones' character is Brad Pitt's character's dad.
Right.
And he's out in space, and Brad Pitt needs to go get him.
Right.
And that's pretty much the.
It's very interesting to talk about this movie from a point of view, from our point of view at least. The idea that this is, it's like some of our favorite movies, some of my favorite movies are big sci-fi epics. Martian is one of my favorite movies. And part of the reason why I love that movie is because of the loneliness that he goes through, but also the visuals that go along with that movie, with them being on Mars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And this movie is very much a feast for your eyes, and broad, wide, gigantic Lawrence of Arabia wide shots.
Yeah,
but
and
they're
like
in space,
high def.
Yeah,
because at least on the moon, and maybe this is just I don't know if it's a movie effect of the moon, but everything is very crisp and
there's no atmosphere, clear. So that kind of helps.
Okay. Yeah. But yes, it's very visual. I mean, you could just sit there and not even listen to it, just watch it the whole time.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a slow burn.
But it's got these big, epic visual pieces, but it is a character study at its core. Mm-hmm. And it's a character story of Brad Pitt's character, Roy McBride. It's been a long night, guys. And it is... somebody said earlier in one of the reviews I saw that this movie wasn't really, but it was... oh my God, his name just left me. Drive 2049.
I knew you were going to do that.
Ryan Gosling.
There you go. We always get stuck on his name.
I know. I don't know what it is. But this movie was a very Ryan Gosling style of movie.
Actually, I've heard that multiple times.
Yes. And although I agree with the sentiment, I don't necessarily know this is that style of movie. And Brad Pitt's character goes through an emotional journey that is his character on when he's interacting with other characters is not very is very very short with people, very deadpan, not very emotional, very disconnected, much like Ryan Gosling is in 2049, and then when he's playing Neil Armstrong in First Man.
Right.
But his character goes through an emotional arc in this story that is conveyed with the way he changes physically and his emotional facial reactions and his body reactions. But the big thing about this one, for me, is the difference is the internal monologue that is going on that we can all hear. That is a big difference from the 2049 kind of thing.
Well, is it?
For me, yes.
He does an internal monologue in 2049, and he does it in First Man.
But the difference is that Roy's internal monologue is a representation of the physicalness that Brad Pitt is putting off and his emotional change as we go along. And that's I not spoilery, I don't think, but his emotion and being more open to things as he goes along is his thought process. They do a thing in this movie which is really kind of interesting, is it's the psyche valves after each thing, which is very 2049, and it's not a baseline. I don't necessarily think it's a baseline like it is in 2049, but it's much more of a, okay, yeah, you're still okay, you can go to the next mission.
Right.
It changes as it goes along, and him conveying issues that he is coming to terms with in those instances are, I think, maybe explained better physically. Your phone is blowing up.
It is.
That's I might be way off base, but that's kind of what I've been thinking about all day, is how that.
Okay.
Is that not what you're my?
Okay. Sure.
Okay. All right. This movie is one of those ones where you're like, oh, they're in this. Oh, they're in this.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in it. There's half of the old man space. I don't remember.
Space Cowboys.
Space Cowboys. That's right. Yeah.
Half of Space Cowboys are in
Yeah.
this. Somewhere Clint was like, come on, guys. Ruth Rutabagas is
Nada's Rugabegas.
I like her role. I wish she was in it more.
Yeah.
I think I really think that this movie is very, like we were saying, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's very, 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 very slow burn.
Yeah, and it's almost a one-man show, which which is Brad Pitt. There are other characters, and they come and go. Donald Sutherland is in it for a hot minute.
Right.
Tommy Lee Jones even is only really in it for like a hot minute. Everybody kind of comes and goes, and Brad Pitt's character is the constant.
Right.
I also feel that he starts off, I don't think this is a spoiler, but he starts off on Earth, and even when he goes to the moon, as one person who has learned to deal with kind of all of these, or compartmentalize all of these things that have happened to him in his life. And as he goes deeper and deeper into space and is forced to be more and more alone just because he's going deeper into space, he can no longer compartmentalize or hide from kind of these, because it's just him. Yeah. When you're out in space all by yourself, you kind of are alone with your thoughts. And I think that that's kind of, it's kind of reflective in how his personality changes. And he goes from being this very non-emotional, disconnected person that it's very hard for you as the watcher to have any empathy or connection to this person to at the end he's a very different person.
Yeah, and I think at some point in time we will sit down and have a long discussion about what this movie was, at least for me, because of what this is a conversation. I'm trying to do this without spoiling it, so I'm trying. It's like so that's why I'm struggling a little bit. This is a conversation about a subject that is wrapped in a sci-fi epic.
Yeah.
And that subject is kind of close to my heart. And so the story arc for Roy is conveyed so well. I would not be surprised if we get a Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay, cinematography, possibly direction. But Brad Pitt, I would not be surprised if he's the leader in the clubhouse. Now, it's September and we've got a lot of stuff that's coming.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's the leader in the clubhouse right now for best lead.
Yeah, it's definitely a role that I've never seen him in. I've never seen him do anything quite this introspective and not comedic and not, or at least a little tongue-in-cheek somewhere. I kept expecting him to kind of rip one off, like he does like in the Ocean's movies. And yeah,
he was amazing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, but he's still kind of got that wry, smirky, I know something you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this one was, there is a scene where my emotional connection with Brad Pitt's character changes, and it's one single tear.
Yeah.
And it's I thought about it, and I can't think of another instance, but I've never seen Brad Pitt actually cry on screen. Now, I'm sure there's something out there, but of all the movies that I can think of, I can't necessarily think of Brad Pitt specifically as an actor crying on screen.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I just don't remember it, and that really got me.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit on the way home too. I don't know if they make-upped or aged Brad Pitt up a little bit, but there is specific shots especially when he's in the helmet, where he looks a lot like Tommy Lee Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like perfect casting if it's not at least a little bit augmented, so they kind of look like each other. And stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
And then like we said, this is we went and saw it in Dolby, and I want to see it again. I think if we're going to do another big space movie like this, I think we need to move like 5 rows closer.
Well, I wanted to see it in IMAX.
Yeah, I wanted to see it in IMAX. Yeah.
But
I think if we're going to do the Dolby Theater, I think like 5 rows closer, so we kind of get that little bit of the Dolby.
Yeah, the middle is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah. But if this is one of those movies that will be in the Oscar, in the award conversation the whole fall, but needs to be seen on the big screen to really get you get the epicness of Gravity and 2001: A Space Odyssey, all that kind of stuff, and the emotional story and the loneliness of Martian and
Little First Man,
and the father-son relationship too that's in there. That's like that kind of character study thing is not something you expected to see from this big, epic, cool, look at that's Jupiter, oh my God.
Yeah.
At a couple different times. And
yeah.
And they do, the one last thing I did want to actually talk about before we do a score is, I read an article today, it was from Fox News, so take it as you wish. But it was they were doing a review of the movie, and they actually interviewed a engineer from NASA who spent 12 years or 11 years on the on the space exploration missions for NASA, and now he works for SpaceX.
Okay.
And he said this is the closest they've gotten, Hollywood, this is the closest they've gotten to actual being in space.
Okay.
How like it's set in the near future, so everything is very familiar for us as as an audience members, but there's still at least there's some advancement in the technology that makes sense.
Yeah.
But a lot of them in zero G or on the moon or on Mars, the technology that was needed to go to Neptune or Jupiter and all that kind of stuff, all of that is very, 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 very realistic, is what he was saying.
Cool.
And so, and that was one of the things that made me appreciate the movie even more, is that it was set in the near future and it was very realistic. If you set up the rules of your movie very early on, that this is what the rules state, and you stick with those the rest of the way, it actually works. There's one scene I have some questions on, but I'm pretty sure Neil deGrasse Tyson will get on and say, yeah, that's how it works. So it's just a physics question. So score?
I'm going to give it a 4.25 with a caveat. Typically, I score my movies on rewatchability, and we talked about this on the way home, that I think I'd want to watch it one more time, but like Space Odyssey, it's a kind of a difficult watch, like, because it's long and it's slow, and so I don't know that it's got a ton of like rewatchability, but I'd like to rewatch it at least once. So I'm giving it a 4.25, but I'm kind of almost scoring it a little different than I would normally.
So I thought about this all day. I want to give it a 4.5, so 4.5 out of 5 pops. I think I'm gonna do it like you. Rewatchability for me is just not a thing. I think I want to watch it again to get some stuff, but that might be it.
Yeah.
And so I would want to jump it down to a 4.25 because of that rewatchability. This is an amazing movie, and I'm going to be super excited when it wins all the stuff or is up for all the stuff when we get into award season. But as we were talking about on the way home, my top 10 movies of the year are movies that I really, really liked. And part of my liking of movies is the rewatchability. And I just don't know if this will be... Now, right now, it's in the top 5. But...
Yeah. It's not a movie we'll probably buy again. Yeah. We'll watch it one more time just to catch, stuff we missed or whatever. But... It's not something you're just going to watch. You're just going to throw on in the background and go do something else or whatever.
It's an intense watch, and totally worth the intense watch. We're kind of making it sound like maybe it's not worth watching. It's totally worth watching.
Yeah.
Go see it on the big screen. Go see it in IMAX. Go see it in Dolby. All that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it is a character study, a solitude character in space. And that's always going to get our attention.
Yeah.
So that is our review of Ad Astra. Please let us know what you thought of it. Which movie was better this summer for Brad Pitt? Ad Astra or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Let us know in the comments. Also, tell us, what is your favorite sci-fi movie? You don't do Star Wars. That's fantasy. It's a whole different thing. But tell us what your favorite sci-fi Earth-based sci-fi, so like Martian, 2001 Space Odyssey, that kind of stuff. So let us know in the comments, all that stuff. Do all the things, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends, help us out on Patreon. All of that information and everything is in the description down below. And until next time, good night, cult members.